Hi, welcome to Never Stop Trucking. Today we are talking about differences between freight brokers, dispatching companies, and trucking authorities. So, as you may know, I don't prepare myself in 99% of my videos, and I just sit down and start talking. So, forgive me for ums and pauses, and I'm just trying to talk about everything I know without any preparations, and just to have that feeling between you and me as we are, as if we were talking to each other. So let's start. So first, let's cover the trucking authorities. Trucking authorities have their own MC and DOT numbers, and they're checked by the Department of Transportation, and they have a lot of liability, and but they have open hands as far as purchasing equipment goes, and negotiating contracts with shippers and brokers. So as far as that goes, they have more possibilities. And of course, with all that comes responsibility and safety. If the safety scores are bad, then they can suffer. But basically, what trucking authority is that you get your own DOT number, your MC number, and you have your insurance, your permits, and then you can either have your own trucks that run under your authority, or have owner operators that run under your authority. Usually, trucking companies will charge owner operators a percentage, a fee of the load that they're booking, and giving it to them. And that percentage can vary depending on what's all included in the services, but it can go anywhere from 10 to 12% to like 20 to 30%, where they would take the fee off of the load and keep it for themselves as their profits. Dispatching companies are different. They are getting more and more popular, and like 10 20 years ago there weren't that many dispatching companies around, but now with internet, and people have realized that they can do something like that from abroad, from a different country, as long as they know English and have internet access, and then they get some kind of training, and then they start working by themselves. So what they do is they would usually work from home, or maybe there would be more dispatchers involved. They might have an office, but usually it will be like a one-person operation. They run from home, and they would work with trucking authorities and find loads for them. So it can depend on why trucking authorities might need help. It depends, someone is on vacation, they cannot cover their trucks. The owner is not there, and a lot of reasons. But what dispatching companies also do, they would try to find owner operators who have their own authorities, and then try to cover them. So they would look up an owner operator, usually a trucking authority that only has one truck, and that tells them that it's probably an owner operator who is driving that truck. And the logic is this, that owner operator is busy driving, and he cannot look for loads and drive. I know some of them do that, and that's not safe. But usually, they won't be able to do that. Look at their computer and their phone and trying to look for loads and call loads. So these dispatching companies would look for loads on their behalf. They would contact them and say, "Hey, this is what we are doing. We can help you find loads. We charge a fee. It can be anywhere from like 5 to 10% fee, and then we find your load, and then you pay us that fee." So, and everyone is happy. With that said, dispatching companies have limited authorities. that owner operator would have to sign some kind of an agreement with them. They would give them an okay to contact brokers on their behalf, negotiate rates, sign the rate confirmations, maybe even sign the broker package, and they would look for loads from them, and they would call that owner operator and say, hey, there's this load, it pays this much money, and then will you take it? And then once they said, yes, I like that load, then they would book it with the broker on their behalf. So trucking dispatching companies don't have their own authority. They do not have their own MC number or DOT number. On paper, they're not liable for anything because it's all between the owner operator, which and then he or she has their own trucking authority, and the broker. They're only a middleman that books the load on their behalf and then charges the owner operator a fee for that service. So a lot of people say this is a kind of like a gray area, and there's some liability involved. But people are doing it, and brokers are going along with it. I contacted a few brokers and I asked them, do you guys work with dispatching companies? And some of them said, no, we don't know what it is. But some of them said, yeah, we work with those people. I have a guy who is over in Europe, in Eastern Europe, and I work with him, and he books loads on behalf of that company. And all they have to do with that broker, which is actually Coyote, they said that they have a form. You would fill it out on their website, and then you would send it to them, and the owner operator would sign it and say, hey, this dispatching company can book loads with you on my behalf. So basically, a dispatching company, if they have 5 or 6 or 10 owners, each time they book a load, they have to specifically book that load in name of that owner operator or with their MC number and their company number and all that, because otherwise that owner operator will not get paid unless that rate confirmation is issued in their name, and that dispatcher makes sure that all that checks, and then he or she has to tell the broker what they're doing and who the contract, the rate con will be sent to. Usually owner operators of these companies, they have to invoice the brokers themselves because the invoice has to come from them or their factoring companies. Now, sometimes I've seen dispatching companies providing more services such as invoicing and other things, but they would charge more for their services instead of just a flat dispatching fee. And that, I guess, depends on dispatching company and what they do. Freight brokers, they are people who sometimes they can have their own trucks, their own assets or their own trailers, but what they mostly do is they work with shippers or receivers or their customers, whoever is in charge of that load, and they find trucking companies to deliver those loads on their behalf. So they're a real middleman, and they are involved in the process, and they have to, they have insurance and bonds and all that, and what they do is find a truck for a company, because you see, like let's say I'm a trucking company, I only have 5 trucks or 10 trucks or maybe even 20 trucks, and most trucking companies in United States are like that, like the majority has a small number of trucks. So for me, if I have 10 trucks and then there is this like big shipper in town or in the other state, and they have loads every day, and they have 10 loads a day, 50 loads a day, doesn't really matter, but I cannot cover those loads as a trucking company by myself. I don't have that many trucks, I don't have that many trailers, I don't have the capacity, and then even if I had that many trucks, my drivers sometimes will not go there to the certain area where the load is delivering, or they're out of hours, or a driver quit, the truck broke down. I can't possibly cover all those loads for that shipper. And the shipper might contact me a few times, or the customer. I keep saying shipper. It doesn't have to be the shipper whose load it is. Usually it's the receiver, or like a totally third company, someplace else. But they would contact me, say, hey, we have 10 loads for tomorrow, and then you're like, oh yeah, well, I can only cover 5 or 2. And then after 2 or 3 times, they're just going to say, well, you know what, I can't work with you. I need one guy that I can work with, and just send them all my loads. I can't be looking for 10 trucking companies that's going to do business with me. And that's where the broker comes into play. Then the broker comes in and says, hey, well, you know what? I'm a broker, a freight broker. I have thousands of carriers in my database, and no matter how many loads you have, I can cover them. And then if that shipper or that customer has 10 loads or 20 loads, 50 loads, doesn't matter. They can come to that broker and say, here are 50 loads for you for tomorrow, or for the next 2 weeks, or for next month. Cover them. And then that broker has their contacts. They call their carriers, they post it on load boards, and they give it out to 5, 20, 50 carriers. It doesn't matter. So that's what they do. They resell loads from someone else. The thing with that is, like, let's say a customer, a shipper wants to pay $2,000 to transport a load from point A to point B, and this kind of like a rule is that broker should not take more than 15% of that. But I see it all the time where brokers take less or more, and you can't really make them tell you how much they're making on that load. They should be able to tell you. You should be able to send them a request for that, and they have to give it to you. But usually they won't, because no one can make them. How are you going to make? They're just going to stop working with you as soon as you ask them. Maybe there are some brokers who will tell you that. I don't know. I honestly never tried, because really I don't care how much they make, as long as I can make money and my drivers can make money. It's not my fault or their fault that I'm in this business, and then they're in that business. If I wanted to be in that business, I would probably go into that business. But this is my business. This is what I do. I care how much I get paid. So usually brokers keep money from that. Like if a load's paying $2,000, they would keep $100, $200, $300, maybe even $500. I don't know. It's really up to them. They watch the markets. Sometimes they lose money. If they, and I tried. I have a brokerage. I have a brokerage that I don't use. I only did a couple of loads, and it was hard to negotiate with customers. They just wanted to go cheap. They want to spend as little money as possible, and then you have to find a carrier that's going to do as little as that load for as little as possible, and then you get what you pay for. If you find a carrier that's very cheap, you're probably going to get bad service. If you find a carrier that's expensive, then you cannot afford it. You're not going to make any money. So no matter what people think, brokers don't have it that easy. It's not that easy for them. We as a trucking authorities think that brokers sometimes can be cheap, but customers, the shippers, can be even cheaper. So I wouldn't want to be a broker. Like I said, I tried it and I didn't like it. Now, if you're a trucking authority and you're an owner operator, that usually works same as if you were a trucking authority and have 10 trucks. Because all the same rules apply to you, no matter if you have 1 truck or 10 trucks. It's only different, like the volume is different. You have much more work if you have more trucks. If you're an owner operator, you're driving your own truck, then you only worry about yourself, and your truck. If you have more, you worry about everyone else. So pros and cons about each. So If you're a trucking authority, the pros are that you can get your own trucks. You can usually make more money with your own truck than if you have an owner-operator that runs under your authority. So you can have, your trailers, trucks, facilities, a warehouse, a building with docks, a shop, and all that can bring you additional money, and you can, grow and develop. And I've seen companies grow from 1 truck to 100 trucks or 200 trucks. It happens. So you have possibility to grow, and you have possibility to own assets, and then down the road, those assets will, they can bring you more money, and then you have something physical that you own. If you are a dispatching company, you don't own anything. You only have your office, your furniture, your computers, and you can't have an authority. You can't have your own trucks or the trailers run under your authority. You may be able to buy trailers and rent them out, but that's about it. So if you don't want the stress, if you don't want liability and responsibility, then you should probably be a dispatcher. Being a dispatching company is risky in the sense of having business. Like if you are a trucking authority or a freight broker, you have your customers, established customers, and you have people who want to work with you. And if you lose a customer, then it's okay. You have other customers. You're gonna find more. But if you are a dispatching company and you work with like 2 or 3 owner operators, and something goes bad, like one of them is sick, one breaks down, one gets out of trucking, one gets mad, then you're left with one owner operator or none, and that's risky, because you can never predict how much you're going to make in a week, because if they take time off, then you're not doing anything. You can't expect any money to come in. If you're a freight broker, then you don't have usually you don't have trucks, you don't have trailers, you don't have warehouses. Usually some of these big brokers, they do, once they expand. But if you're a regular broker, or maybe when you're working from home, then you don't have any of that. You have your customers, and they give you loads, and then all you have to do is find decent carriers, and that can be trouble too. So with brokers, they have to deal with their customers, and that's not easy. And then they have to deal with trucking companies, and that's not easy either. So for them, that's hard, and they have to, constantly look for new customers, because if they lose customers, if they lose a big account, and that happens, these shippers and receivers, they constantly look for better rates. And I've seen these loads that they'll pick up every day, and they keep changing brokers all the time. So it's hard to be a broker in that sense, and you also have to always check your carriers, and then you have some liability too, for the load, and each one of these carries its own risks. They have good and bad sides, so it all depends on what you want to do. It depends how much money you have to begin with, to start. The cheapest one to start is the dispatching company, and then because you only need maybe like $500 to $1,000 for the equipment, like your computer and phone and internet. If you're a freight broker, you probably need like $2,000 to $3,000 to start, for your authority and for your bond and for your insurance. If you are a trucking authority, you need a lot more money. And then if you can see here in the background, I'm working on that. And then you will soon see that video, God willing, in future, about how to start a trucking authority, and that can be expensive. But then if you're trucking authority, you have your own DOT number, you have assets, you have a lot of more possibilities. You have possibilities to grow and make a lot of money down the road if you want to grow big. Let's say you want to grow to like 20 or 50 trucks, then there's you can your revenue is going to be in millions. You're not going to make, your profit is not going to be that much, but your revenue is going to be in millions, and you're going to make a lot of more money that way. If you're a freight broker, you can also make a lot of money if you know what you're doing. If you let's say you have 10 loads a day and you make $100 on each. I mean, you do math. You do your math. You do 1,000. Make $1,000 a day. I mean, what else do you want? And then you can even make more. If you're a dispatching company, you're probably going to be making the least money, but there's a lot less liability, a lot less startup costs, and you can work from anywhere. You don't have to be in the United States. There are people who want to do it from abroad. If you speak English and you have internet connection, then you can probably make it as a dispatching company that's based abroad. And I see a lot of that, and I see a lot of your questions asking me about that. I hope to do a video on how to start a dispatching company soon. So I'll have your answers for that. So yeah, if you like this video, like it and share it, and come back for more. I'm trying to do as many videos as I can, and I'll see you around.